They say the loudest goodbyes are whispered, not shouted. My friends, if you've ever poured your heart into someone who only ever gave you fragments, you know this pain. You gave your all, your love, your care, your time, and in return, they treated it like an option, like something they could come back to whenever their ego needed stroking. Folks, let me tell you something plain and clear. There comes a moment when the storm inside you doesn't want to fight anymore. It wants silence. Not silence as punishment. Silence as clarity. You don't need another long paragraph. You don't need to explain your pain. You don't need to prove your worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. What you need is one move, one single message. Not to start a war, but to end one. Not to beg, but to awaken. And that message, it's not about revenge, it's about revelation. Because once you see who someone really is, when the mask slips and their actions no longer match their words, you can't unsee it. And when that clarity hits, you stop chasing, you stop hoping, you stop bleeding for someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You've been taught that closure comes from long talks, from explaining your side, from one last chance. But here's the truth. Closure comes from acceptance. Peace comes from letting go, not holding on. And the most powerful form of closure, it's the message that says, I'm no longer in this game, delivered calmly, delivered without fear, delivered with the weight of someone who has finally woken up. They thought you'd keep trying, they thought they had time, but what they didn't count on was your evolution. They didn't see you building that quiet strength behind the scenes. They didn't hear the doors you were closing in your spirit while they kept playing. And now, when you finally pull back with full awareness, no anger, no noise, no drama, that's when their mind begins to spiral. That's when your silence becomes the loudest echo in their life. This text is not about making them suffer. That's not the goal. The goal is to set yourself free from the emotional trap they built, to say, I saw it, I felt it, and now I'm done. It's like stepping out of a room you once begged to be seen in and realizing the air outside is fresher. You don't owe anyone emotional proof anymore. The way they treated you was the evidence, and now your silence becomes your truth. You don't scream in strength. You don't break down to be heard. You rise without needing permission. That's what this is. This script is a guide, a path to detachment, not bitterness, freedom, not revenge, a blueprint for how to flip the dynamic not with noise, but with depth. And when you send this final message, something shifts, not just for them, but for you. You finally reclaim the part of yourself that believed you had to prove anything to be loved. If something deep in your gut just whispered, this was meant for me, don't scroll past that. Don't pretend you didn't feel it. That's not just some coincidence. That's your clarity finally cutting through the noise. That's the part of you that's been silent for too long finally rising up, saying, enough. You've ignored your intuition before. You've second-guessed the signs, but not this time. This time, you honor what you know. You own what you feel. You choose what you deserve. So right now, if this hit you like truth in a world full of illusions, go to that comment box and write, I see it now. Not for me, not for them, for you, to mark the moment you stopped chasing and started choosing. And while you're here, don't just listen, engage. Tap that like button if you're reclaiming your energy. Hit subscribe so you never forget who you're becoming. Stay with me, because we're not done. In fact, we're just beginning to light the fire they never saw coming. Number 1. The text. I see it now. Take care. There's a text that feels like silence, but it echoes like thunder in the mind of someone who thought they'd always have access to you. A few simple words, no emotion, no venom, no punctuation that screams pain or rage, just steady fingers typing a message that ends the story without a scream. I see it now. Take care. That's it. but the weight those words carry, it's devastating. See, when you've been rejected, manipulated, or ghosted, the world will tell you to go off, to clap back, to break the silence with some fiery paragraph that shows them how badly they messed up. But the truth is, emotional chaos never changes someone who feeds on it. What does shift their core? What disturbs their sense of control? Stillness, clarity, exit without permission. These 5 words, I see it now. Take care, are a quiet detonation in the brain of someone who was banking on your confusion. They wanted your pain. They counted on your confusion. They were addicted to your doubt. Every time you questioned what went wrong, every time you asked if you were enough, they gained a little more power. Not always intentionally, not always consciously, but human ego is a hungry thing, and when you gave yours away to hold on to theirs, they took it. So let's break it down. I see it now. That's not an accusation. That's not a threat. That's a statement of sight. It means clarity has landed. It means you finally connected the dots that your heart refused to face. Maybe it's the breadcrumbing. Maybe it's the way they lit up when they wanted something and disappeared the moment you needed something back. Maybe it's the subtle shade, the gaslighting, the half-truths wrapped in fake smiles. Or maybe it's just the brutal realization that you were showing up fully for someone who only showed up halfway. I see it now means your blindfold is off. It means you're not waiting for another excuse, another promise, another apology that doesn't come. It means the spell is broken. Then comes the dagger wrapped in silk. Take care. On the surface it sounds polite, kind, but to someone who expected chaos from you, that line is emotional withdrawal in its purest form. It means you're done giving them your reaction. You're done giving them the energy they used to measure their importance in your life. You're not begging for closure. You're not proving your worth. You're not even trying to be understood. Take care is the exit sign lit up in your soul, and they feel it. Hard. They'll read it once, then again, then 10 more times over the next few weeks. Why so short? Why so calm? Was it sarcastic? Was it sincere? Why now? What changed? The questions multiply in their mind because they were never prepared for your peace. They were prepared for your pain. But your calmness, that feels cruel to someone who was used to the chaos of being chased. It's the difference between a storm they can blame and a silence they can't outrun. And if you're thinking, but won't they just brush it off? Listen to me. No one forgets the moment you detach without warning. No one sleeps soundly, knowing the person they once ignored is now unreachable. Even if they act cool, even if they play it off. Even if they post some fake, living my best life nonsense. It's performative, because deep down, something just shifted, and they know it. You used to be predictable, emotional, easy to pull back in with crumbs, but now you've become a mirror, and nothing is more haunting than someone who stops asking to be seen and simply walks away holding the truth. And yes, it might be hard to send. Your fingers will hesitate. Your mind will flood with doubt. What if they don't even care? What if this makes me look weak? What if they never respond? But here's the truth, my friend. They already weren't responding. They already weren't showing up. You've already lived through the worst part, waiting. This message isn't for them. It's for you. It's the ceremonial closure they'll never offer you. It's you giving the story an ending that honors your dignity. You don't need to be angry to reclaim your power. You just need to be done. You don't need them to feel your pain. You just need to stop handing them access to your peace. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about manipulation. This is about reclaiming your center. It's about making peace your boundary instead of pain your language. The ones who once confused your love with weakness are the same ones who will question your silence forever. And this one message, sent without theatrics, sent without fear, becomes the ghost that visits their pride long after you're gone. Let it visit them, let it speak in your absence, let it say everything you used to scream, without saying another word. So if this is the moment you've been waiting for, if your clarity has finally caught up with your compassion, then write this in the comments right now. I see it now. That's not just a sentence, that's your soul choosing self-respect. That's your nervous system exhaling. That's your healing beginning with one bold step. Number 2. The ego disruption. You removed yourself as the mirror. Most people don't actually know who they are. They just know how they appear through your reactions, through your eyes, your compliments, your corrections, your energy, and especially your emotional responses. That was their mirror. That was how they checked their worth. That was how they made sense of themselves in your story. But now you've taken that mirror away. You've gone still, you've gone clear, you've gone quiet. And that disruption, it's not small. It's an earthquake in the ego of someone who's been performing the whole time without even realizing it. See, when someone hurts you, whether intentionally or not, they often assume you'll keep responding, that you'll cry, argue, defend, over-explain, that you'll try to fix it just one more time. They build their emotional identity around your presence, even if they're cold, even if they ghost, even if they betray you. Deep down, they need your emotional energy to make sense of who they are. But when you send that final message, simple, detached, clean, you stop being their mirror. You stop reflecting their drama. You stop reacting to their breadcrumbs. And suddenly, they don't know who they are anymore. Imagine an actor on stage, giving their best performance, but the audience just gets up and walks out. That's what this does. You left the theater, you didn't boo, you didn't clap, you just stopped watching, and now they're standing in the spotlight alone, wondering why it feels so cold. The applause is gone, the control is gone, the power they had through your reactions, gone, because you were never just the audience. You were the script, the light, the meaning, and they never knew that until you left. You're not punishing them, you're not ghosting them to play games, you're simply removing yourself from the illusion that your value was only real if they acknowledged it, the illusion that their actions didn't hurt because you kept responding. You broke the spell, and their ego doesn't know how to process that. It's a psychological shock when the mirror stops showing them what they want to see. It messes with their sense of superiority. It flips their control dynamic upside down, because now they can't predict you. They can't provoke you. They can't use your emotions to justify their own story. And without that power, they start spinning, wondering, doubting themselves in ways they never did before. This is what Jung called the collapse of the projected self. When the persona, the mask, they wore in your presence can no longer survive without your validation, the ego begins to crack. And through those cracks, regret slips in, self-doubt slips in, shame slips in, not because you shamed them, but because your exit made them see themselves without your lens. And some people can't stand who they are without your compassion softening the reflection. And you might ask, is that fair? Shouldn't they already know who they are? Maybe. But this isn't about fairness, this is about truth. And the truth is, your absence becomes the first honest mirror they've ever had. One that doesn't distort, doesn't beg, doesn't chase, just reflects exactly what was and leaves. So if this is hitting your spirit, if your silence has been mistaken for weakness, but you now understand it's the highest form of power, then write this in the comments right now. I broke the mirror. That's your affirmation today. Director, cold, liberating. Tap the like button if you're reclaiming your emotional energy. Hit subscribe. Stay close. The deeper we go, the freer you become. Number 3. Cognitive dissonance. Their brain fights the calm. The mind doesn't panic when you scream. It panics when you don't. When someone wrongs you and you yell, cry, or beg, they can categorize it. They're emotional. They're dramatic. They still care. It lets them feel in control. But when you say nothing, when all you send is a calm message like, "I see it now, take care," it breaks their mental script. Suddenly, their brain doesn't know where to put you. You're not playing the role anymore. You've exited the narrative without a scene. And that calm, that's what starts the war inside their mind. They reread that message again and again, trying to decode it. What did they see? Was it me? Did they find out something? Are they done? Their brain isn't built for this kind of exit. There's no fight to win, no guilt trip to dodge, no blame to push back against, just a cold curtain drop, and that's when cognitive dissonance kicks in. You see, folks, cognitive dissonance is when two truths crash into each other and the mind can't reconcile them, and your calm message delivers that collision. On one hand, they thought they had time, thought you'd always be there, thought they were still in control of the emotional tempo. On the other hand, here you are, silent, done, detached. The mind starts scrambling for answers. Did I misjudge them? Did I push too far? Were they serious the whole time, and I just played around? These questions become mental parasites, and the more calm you are, the more brutal that silence becomes. They didn't expect you to awaken mid-script. They didn't expect you to walk off stage without a breakdown. They thought you'd keep bleeding love into a void, hoping they'd catch it one day. But now you've placed the mirror in their hands and walked away. No yelling, no drama, just the truth. Quiet, final, beautiful. And here's what messes them up even more. They don't get to be the victim. That's what calmness does. When you detach without bitterness, it forces them to sit in their own actions. Your peace exposes their chaos. Your silence makes their guilt louder, and because you gave no explanation, their mind is forced to invent one. That's the dissonance. That's the mental torment. Their imagination now works overtime, building versions of your truth they'll never fully know. And maybe they'll smile on the outside, post like nothing happened, pretend they're unfazed. But inside, that message replays like a song they can't turn off. One line, "I see it now." And that line screams louder than any insult ever could. You're not trying to confuse them. You're not trying to hurt them. You're just stepping into your clarity. And that clarity feels like punishment to someone who benefited from your confusion. Because when a calm exit replaces the chaos they caused, they're left with the one thing they can't manipulate, your peace. So if this resonates, if you've ever watched someone look confused when you finally detached, drop it in the comments right now. My calm is power. That's your affirmation today. Bold, measured, unshakable. Hit the like button if you've stopped explaining yourself. Subscribe and stay with me because we're only getting started. And trust me, they'll feel what you didn't say louder than anything you ever said. Number 4, the unsent. Follow-up, why they want to reply, but don't. They read it once, then twice, then 5 more times. That one quiet message, "I see it now, take care." It wasn't a rant, it wasn't a question, it wasn't an open door. It was closure disguised as a whisper. And because it was so still, so resolved, it triggered something they weren't ready for, the need to reply. But they couldn't. See, folks, the human brain is hardwired to complete loops. That's why cliffhangers drive us crazy. That's why unfinished conversations haunt people at night. when you don't give them room to defend, deny, or deflect. It drives them mad. Your message left no hooks, no threads, no weak points to pull on. Just the full stop. And that full stop? That's what starts the obsession. They open their messaging app, they type delete, type again. You don't see it, but the drafts are there. What do you mean you see it? Delete. I didn't mean to hurt you. Delete. Can we talk? Delete. Nothing feels right because nothing matches your tone. You gave them calm, and now any emotional reply makes them look unstable. That's the trap. Your peace boxed them in. They want to justify, want to explain, want to fix what they once ignored. But they know, deep down, this isn't about getting you back. This is about facing themselves, and that's the part they keep trying to avoid. And while they're stuck in that loop, guess what they do? Scroll, lurk, refresh your page like it's their lifeline. Even the smallest sign from you would let them feel relevant again. But you're not posting subtweets. You're not sharing pain. You're just moving, quietly, purposefully. And that movement without announcement? It's what starves them of oxygen. Because you're no longer feeding the need for response. You're not playing their game. You flipped the board and walked out of the room. Now the silence becomes their mirror. They begin to hear things they used to ignore. Your old texts, your tone, your boundaries. But it's too late. Because you didn't leave with fire. You left with facts. You didn't storm out. You stepped back with grace. And grace, when it's final, leaves a mark far deeper than anger ever could. They might post louder now, pretend harder, flirt with other people publicly, hoping you'll notice. But deep down, they're spiraling in the echo of your message, because even though you said only a few words, you said everything. They thought they could come back whenever they wanted, that you'd always be one message away, but your detachment told them the door wasn't just closed, it was sealed, and that unsent message sitting in their drafts? That's where they now live, suspended between what they had and what they lost. Not because you blocked them, but because your calm made their chaos irrelevant. Number 5. Emotional role reversal. You became the calm they can't shake. There was a time you were the one with all the feelings. You poured, pleaded, tried to explain your heart in languages they refused to learn. You were the emotional one, the one who cared too much. And they wore that like armor, because as long as you were reactive, they were in control. But now, you've changed frequency. You've become still, calm, untouchable, and they don't know how to handle it. See, people addicted to chaos don't fear yelling, they fear silence. They don't fear confrontation, they fear indifference. You stopped arguing. You stopped reaching out to fix what they kept breaking. You stopped giving them the emotional supply they never appreciated. And now the silence echoes louder than any speech you ever gave. It messes with their head. Because suddenly you're the composed one. You look like the one who's moved on. You sound like the one who never needed them as much as they thought. And that flips the entire emotional balance. Now, they're checking your page, overthinking your silence, wondering if you met someone new. And the truth is, you didn't even say anything. You didn't try to hurt them. You simply became what they never expected. Calm. And here's what no one tells you. The calm person always wins. Because calmness means clarity. It means you're no longer available for confusion, games, or breadcrumbing. It means you saw everything, felt it all, and still chose peace over performance. And that power, it's not loud. It doesn't post 1,000 quotes. It just radiates from your absence. So if this is hitting your spirit, if you've recently flipped the energy and become the one they can't shake, drop this in the comments right now. Calm is my power. That's your affirmation. Quiet, centered, complete. Tap, like if you've stopped begging and started breathing. Hit subscribe and stay with me. We're just getting started, and your new chapter begins in silence. Number 6. Their script is broken. They don't know their role anymore. They had a script, a mental one, a predictable cycle. You cry, they ignore. You explain, they mock. You beg, they retreat. And when you finally threaten to walk away, they wait, knowing you'll come back with a paragraph and a heart still open. They didn't need to change, because they knew your lines before you spoke them. But this time, something shifted. You didn't perform. You didn't defend yourself. You didn't break down or lash out. You simply exited the scene with a calm sentence and a full stop. No sequel, no follow-up, no encore. And now they're sitting in a theatre, spotlight on them, audience gone, with no script to follow, no character to play, no cues to react to. They're the actor who rehearsed for drama, and now the silence is so thick, it's crushing their performance. See, people who manipulate emotionally feed on predictable roles. You play the empath, they play the avoidant. You ask, they dismiss. You chase, they run. It's not even personal, it's their comfort zone. They feel secure when they know how you'll respond. They feel powerful when you react exactly how they expect. But when you don't, it breaks the entire narrative. They're confused. They replay the scene in their head. Wait, that's it? That's all they're gonna say. They scroll through your last message looking for tone, sarcasm, anger, hope, but find none. Just peace, just awareness, just the quiet sting of being released. You didn't just walk away, you rewrote the story. Now their mind spirals. Are they really done? Why didn't they yell? Why didn't they beg? And suddenly, they're not acting anymore. They're feeling the absence, feeling the consequence, feeling the reality that you're not reading from their script, you're writing your own. It's disorienting, because when someone has always held the upper hand by controlling how you feel, your detachment feels like punishment, even though it's not. It's simply evolution, growth, conscious closure. You didn't set the bridge on fire, you just stopped standing on it. And that's the part that drives them wild. They expected drama, and you gave them distance. They expected chaos, and you gave them cold peace. They expected you to chase, but you just sat back and let the silence speak louder than anything. And here's what makes this power so potent. It's not forced, it's not a performance, it's earned through pain, through reflection, through choosing self-respect over old habits. And they know it. Deep down, they feel it. And while they may never say it to your face, they now know this story doesn't belong to them anymore. It belongs to you. So if you feel this shift, if you've stopped playing the role they assigned you and started becoming the author of your own emotional script, write this in the comments right now. I flipped the script. That's your affirmation today. Bold, final, free. Tap that like button if you're stepping out of the performance and into your peace. Hit subscribe and stay with me, because this time you're not acting, you're healing. For real. Number 7. The return isn't the same. They'll try, but they can't undo the damage. They always come back. That's the part they never calculate. They think time will soften you. They think silence will blur the memory. They think you'll be waiting in the same place, holding the same torch, craving the same fantasy. But when they return, something has shifted. The door might still be there, but you're not standing at it anymore. You've changed addresses, my friend, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and this confuses them. Because they're not returning to the same version of you they left behind. They're returning to someone wiser, someone quieter, someone who's already buried the version of themselves who begged for crumbs and called it love. They reach out with casual words, pretending nothing happened, a hey here, a just checking on you there. But underneath their message is panic, a desperate hope that you're still emotionally available, that you're still caught in the web, that they still have access to your softness. But what they don't realize is, you've sobered up. See, emotional addiction works like any other addiction. Withdrawal is brutal, the craving is real, but once your system clears, once your nervous system rebalances and your self-worth stabilizes, that same hit doesn't even taste the same. They try to relight what they extinguished, but they forgot they were the ones who poured water on the flame. Now they're shivering in the cold, reaching for warmth from the fire they destroyed. It's not that you hate them, it's not that you're angry, it's just that you remember everything too clearly now. You remember the silence when you needed reassurance. You remember the confusion when you needed clarity. You remember being gaslit, ghosted, minimized, and then expected to act normal. You're no longer craving the illusion. You're awake, and what they're offering doesn't fit your clarity anymore. And here's the hard truth for them. You're not rejecting them to punish them. You're just honoring your peace. And once you taste real peace, chaos loses all appeal. Let them say, you've changed. You have. Let them say, you're cold now. You are, but only to the fire that once burned you. Let them say, you're distant, because you've traveled so far into self-respect that their manipulation can't reach you anymore. And yes, they'll try. They'll offer the same jokes, the same good times. They'll reference old memories, hoping nostalgia will do the work. But you've outgrown it all. You've seen the price tag of that connection. And your spirit refuses to pay it again. You're no longer flattered by attention. You're moved by consistency. You're no longer seduced by words. You're anchored by actions. And this is what truly haunts them. Not that you moved on, but that you did it with dignity. They thought the damage could be undone. They didn't realize that damage rewires a person. And the version of you that once tolerated their bare minimum doesn't exist anymore. So when they come back, and they will, you don't need to be cruel. You don't need to flex. Just be still, be clear, be unmoved. Because when someone breaks your heart and expects to return to your soul, they don't deserve fireworks. They deserve silence. You didn't close the door, they did. But now you've locked it. From the inside, not out of spite, out of self-love. And if this message is speaking to the version of you that still wonders, what if they return? Remember this, what once felt like the dream now feels like a warning. So write this in the comments right now. I've outgrown the fantasy. That's your affirmation today. Calm, true, final. Tap that like button if you've felt the shift inside you. Hit subscribe and stay with me, because they may return, but you're not going backwards. Number 8. What they lost was rare, and now they know it too late. At first, they thought they lost just another person. Just another set of eyes watching their stories, just another voice texting good morning, just another soul orbiting their chaos. They thought your energy was replaceable, your silence temporary, your love on standby. But slowly, quietly, reality started to whisper something different. Because when you disappeared, nothing felt the same. The attention they used to take for granted now echoes in absence. The validation they once ignored has gone missing. The stability you provided, the emotional home you built without asking for rent, is gone. And that void, it doesn't just feel empty, it feels sacred. Because they didn't just lose attention, they lost a rare soul. A soul that saw them when they were lost. A soul that stayed when others ran. A soul that defended their name in rooms they never even entered. A soul that remembered their childhood pain, even when they pretended it didn't exist. You weren't just loyal, you were rare, and they finally know it. But here's the catch, they know it too late. That message you sent, It didn't just end the conversation, it shattered their mirror. I see it now. Take care. 8 words that held the weight of every second you were patient, every night you cried quietly, every time you chose love when they gave you confusion. It wasn't revenge, it was a revelation, and now they can't unsee it. Because the moment you stopped explaining, they had to start reflecting, and that reflection is brutal. It shows them everything they missed while you were soft. It shows them how they mocked your depth, laughed off your loyalty, discarded your care like it was clinginess. It shows them how their ego won battles, but lost something eternal, something that doesn't come back twice. And here's what hurts them the most. You were real in a world that plays pretend. You didn't use games. You didn't manipulate. You gave and gave and gave until your soul whispered, "Enough." Now they're stuck in a cycle where everyone else is just a copy, a distraction, a placeholder. Because people like you aren't replaceable, they're remembered. They scroll through your old messages now, not to laugh, but to mourn. They hear your old voice notes, not to feel loved, but to feel punished by what they threw away. They replay your kindness like it's a haunting, because now they realize, I didn't just lose someone who cared. I lost the only one who ever actually saw me. This is the moment where the roles flip completely. You were once the one questioning your worth. Now they question their entire pattern. You were once the one explaining your heart. Now they're left explaining to themselves why they destroyed the one person who only ever showed up with love. But no explanation brings you back. They may apologize. They may even show up in person, talking like they've changed. But inside, they know the truth. What they lost cannot be recaptured, because it wasn't just a person. It was a frequency, a soul-level connection, a spiritual presence that stood by them through their ugliest storms. And now that presence has left, and their spirit feels naked without it. That's what rare love does. It teaches, even in its exit. It doesn't just punish, it awakens. And even if you never speak again, your absence is doing the work your words once tried to do. It's showing them what they lost, not in anger, but in stillness. That's the final lesson. You don't need to scream to be heard. When your presence was pure, your absence becomes divine. And to those watching this right now, those of you who feel the ache of being thrown away, misunderstood, undervalued, understand this. You weren't the mistake. You were the medicine. But they chose noise over healing. So don't carry their guilt. Don't chase to be seen. Let the silence work. Let your peace speak. And when they finally wake up, let them find a version of you they no longer have access to, because what they lost was rare, and now they know. So as we bring this to a close, remember, your power was never in how loud you loved, but in how quietly you let go. You didn't lose them. They lost access to something real, something rare, something they'll spend years trying to find in people who can't even hold a candle to your energy. Let them feel it, let them regret it, and let yourself rise. If this spoke to your soul, drop a comment right now saying, "They lost me forever." Tap that like button, share this with someone strong, and hit subscribe, because your healing journey has only just begun.